Hey guys, I'm Jameson from Rogue Engineer, and today I'm going to be building a 14-foot long shuffleboard. Let's get started. All right, so I've got all my 2x4s cut down, and we're gonna start by assembling the legs. Now the legs are cut at a 15-degree angle in, so we've got some upper and lower pieces that go this way with two legs that kind of come in together. We're gonna screw those together, counterboring a hole first so we can come back with a dowel, plug those holes. Once we get the legs built, then we're gonna move on to assembling the rest of the base. So like I said, we've got the angled legs coming in, the horizontal bottom piece, that is gonna be 3.5 inches up from the base of the feet or from the ground. So what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use these two pieces of 1/2 inch OSB to give me an inch. That's gonna give me an inch on both sides of this piece here. And then I've got this other piece of 2x4, and we will kind of line that up so that we know this is 3.5 inches from the ground. Now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna counterbore a couple of holes, 1/2 inch holes, and then I'll sink some screws in, come back and put the dowels in to plug those. Now before I move on to the next step, I want to take a second to thank our sponsor for this video, Home Depot. Now they've got tons of great products in store. However, you can also buy those products online and pick them up in store the same day. They'll have them ready for you at the pro desk or the customer service desk, or you can even have them delivered to your vehicle curbside. Another thing that you might not know is that Home Depot has a mobile app that has tons of great features like image search, where you can search using an image for a product that they might have for sale. You can also do product locator if you're in store, being able to locate that product and find out exactly where it is just from the mobile app. Or they even have project calculators for things like blown insulation, figuring out how much you're gonna need, or decking and stuff like that. So if you wanna learn more, make sure you head on over to your app store and download the mobile app from Home Depot. So a typical shuffleboard top is actually about as much as 3 inches thick, and it's a maple butcher block top that runs the full length of the shuffleboard. Since we're making a 14-foot shuffleboard, I didn't really have the setup or the tools to be able to make my own butcher block, so what I opted for is to cheat a little bit, and I bought butcher block countertops from Home Depot. They're about 250 bucks a slab for an 8-footer, and we just needed 6.5 foot since our table or playing surface is actually only 13 feet. So I cut those down using the track saw, and then I cut them down to 20 inches wide. Now, in order to be able to reconstitute the gap, because we're gonna have a weak spot there in the middle, I'm gonna be using steel. So I've got 1-inch square tube steel, two 6-foot pieces that I'll span 3 foot on either side of that seam, and then screw them to the bottom of the slab. I've got some other pieces cut here to go towards the ends to support those ends as well. And then we will actually be using some other pieces of steel to run below those runners, and that's gonna be able to pull the middle of the board down in or after we pour the epoxy top. Okay, so in my 6-foot steel, I went ahead and drilled holes every 6 inches to be able to attach it to the bottom of the slab. One thing I did was from the middle, I came in 12 inches on each side and drilled a big hole just through one side. And what this is gonna do is this is gonna give me a way to level the playing surface in the middle of the slab. So I have leveling feet on the ends, and that's gonna be able to level the ends, but if for some reason the middle of the slab is slightly off, I wanna be able to adjust that. So I'm gonna sink these T-nuts into the plywood, and then I'll be able to come up from below with a bolt and adjust one side or the other to level that out. So this will kind of go in here and be able to push that slab up on this side or that. So what I'm gonna do now is I've laid these out exactly how they're gonna lay by figuring out, centering them essentially, and then doing that. And I'm gonna come in here and I'll mark exactly where this hole is, which is right there, right there. I'm gonna kind of draw those lines there. That way I can center that hole right in the middle. And then I will put this T-nut in there and we'll move on with making up the top. Okay, when it comes to the gutter, what we're gonna be doing is, and actually, if I would have thought about this a little bit further, I would have done this with the plywood that I put on the inside of the frame. However, we are where we are, and I don't wanna take that out and scratch up the frame. So what we're doing is we're constructing another frame that's just going to be wrapped for the gutter. So it's gonna be the material for the gutter, and the gutter is there to kind of absorb some of the sound of the pucks dropping onto the wood. So we've actually gone ahead and cut up this rubber flooring, which is more of like an exercise mat or like a gym flooring. And then we're going to, once all this is together, we'll spray, glue this spray adhesive this down, and then we'll wrap it. We're gonna wrap it in leather. However, you could choose whatever material you wanted. If you wanted to go with some kind of felt or even just regular carpet, that would work too. So to reduce the risk of messing up the top as well as just overall reducing the weight, we actually assembled the top onto the base in place. We were able to move the base in here and get it into the basement, and then the top kind of came together like we talked about with those two slabs. One of the issues that we had was the seam in the middle of the two slabs actually had a small gap in there. In places. So what we ended up doing was I carved out a narrow line, and that would be our center line. And then I came back and I filled that with a black epoxy, the Star Bond CA glue. The issue was that the epoxy actually started to weep into the wood a little bit and kind of wicked and left a little bit of some black in the wood. So we ended up going back over that and painting that line a little bit thicker, and we painted it white. We also painted the lines for the scoring zones as well as applied the numbers. Now the numbers we actually cut out on the Cricut, or I had Jamie cut those out on the Cricut. and which is just a vinyl cutter. However, a lot of that stuff could be ordered online if you didn't have access to something like that. After we got the center line how we wanted it, then we came back and applied the actual Rogue Engineer logo in the center, and it is looking really, really good. So once we got the top together and installed it onto the base, I started to notice that there was a little bit like the top kind of wanted to float in certain areas. So I came back from below and secured it through the base and kind of sucked it down to the gutters. And after that, we ended up installing the leveling feet on the bottom of the furniture legs. However, this should have been done prior to painting and finishing the base, but it was something that I ordered and it didn't come in until later, so we just had to do what we had to do. Now for the coating on the top, you could go with several coats of polyurethane. However, we opted for a 2-part epoxy from Total Boat, and this is their clear tabletop finish, and it turned out great. It mixed up and went on fast, and it's gonna give us a very nice durable layer to be able to play on. Now the epoxy is applied to the actual top of the surface, and the sides of those just has a polyurethane or a shellac finish on that to protect the wood. However, the epoxy, like I said, is only on the top surface. In order to do that, what we did was we applied a piece of painter's tape all the way around the edge, and that just kind of creates a dam and something for the epoxy to flow up against. Once the epoxy is fully cured, then we can come back and tighten up those nuts on those hanger bolts, and that's gonna suck down the middle and give us that concave playing surface. Now we can come back and remove the tape and then round over the edges of that playing surface. And last but not least, we're gonna install the 2 scorekeepers on the side of the shuffleboard in order to keep score. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We absolutely love having a shuffleboard in our basement, and I know we're gonna have tons of fun on this with our friends in the future. But wait, before you go anywhere, make sure you check out that video right there. YouTube thinks you'll like it, and I do too. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that one right there. And if you want the plans on how to build this thing, make sure you head on over to the website right there. Until next time, be safe and happy building.